Singh, and I have just been gifted with so much already, just in 3 weeks on this Rebel Road journey. It's amazing when you let yourself step into the unknown and you allow yourself to really receive, and that's what this is about. We are in a time of receiving, in a time of opening, and understanding that we can trust the universe, that everything we need really is there. But that requires us trusting life. It requires us trusting each other, and most of all, trusting ourselves. Well, I had no idea that, number one, I'd be invited to Canada, to Burlington, Canada, to put on one of the shows, but much less be given a place to stay. So we've been traveling in the RV for quite a while, and it's been comfortable, but you know, it gets a little tight in there at 31 feet by 7 with all of us. And when Beth Parojic actually invited us to come, she offered her amazingly beautiful 100-year-old farmhouse that's been refurbished, and it sits on 35 acres. And when we drove up, I thought I was driving into a fairy tale. It's absolutely just a beautiful little castle that is nestled here amongst nature. And what a gift to give. And then I found out that she's letting us live here before she actually even moves in next week. Who does that? What kind of heart does that? That is such generosity and openness and beauty, and I just feel so filled by receiving in such a tremendous way. But yet, that's such an example of what I want to show people, because we are at this place of, can we just love and be open and honor and, you know, give all of ourselves and receive all of ourselves at the same time.
Well,
so
thank you
for
Simran.
showing up for that.
Absolutely, it is with great pleasure that we welcome you to come with your beautiful family and friends to come and enjoy this place, because this is a place of love, and there wasn't a millisecond of hesitation. They will come and they will stay and they will enjoy, and it's great pleasure that you're here.
Well, it's a sanctuary, and it's definitely representative of you and your energy and the beauty that you're creating in the world. And I'm really excited about this particular interview, because this truly is going to give people an opportunity to understand that process of stepping into the unknown, of knowing something's out there that you want to do, and yet having some of the doubts, having some of the, should I really be doing that? And then yet feeling like I really want to. So let's first talk about who you have been. And I know that you've had a radio show on Voice America, so you're a radio personality. You coach and counsel people. You have this intuitive nature and guidance that you work with people on, and you're all about intuition. And share anything else about yourself. You're the mother of 2 amazing kids. You have an amazing husband that I met today.
And let's not forget the little puppy Ella either. We have to include, she's very, very much part of our family. It's with great pleasure that you've come into our auric field as a family. We are all truly expanded as a result of knowing you and knowing your family, and I must say, Simran, that you've been really instrumental in mentoring me to this next level that I'm willing to take myself into, opening up my heart, opening up myself to all guidance that comes through, and for lack of a better word, not playing small with it any longer. I've been on this intuitive road, since I was about 5 or 6 years of age when I had my first full-on intuitive premonition. Turned out to be something that came true. And I learned at a very young age, though, that this is probably a little spooky. You know, there was just that general feel amongst my family, who are now full-on supporters. They understand differently now than they did back then.
Of course.
So I kept that highly charged, energized, intuitive piece of myself quiet, till I discovered a library at about 14 or 15 years of age, and I would tell my parents I was going to study for school, and I was not studying for school. I made a beeline to anything I could find in the psychic realms and the intuitive realms and the spiritual realms, which back in those days wasn't as abundant as it is today. Thank goodness. That's got a life of itself now, which is great. Yeah. But I was able to gain a fair bit of information that way, in mostly recognizing that I wasn't strange. That intuition is actually a universe-given sense that we've just simply forgotten about.
So we all have it.
We do all have it. That is a very firm belief for me. We all have it. But it's a muscle. It's a sixth sense, but I liken it to a muscle that needs to be worked. You need to work that intuition, and that's what I talk about when I do my public speaking engagements, my motivational speaking engagements. I talk and engage people with their intuition. And Simran, I know that you know this because you're in this type of work as well, but when you witness, or when I witness, the light bulb moment where someone connects with their intuition, I am the happiest person on the planet.
Yeah.
To be able to see someone really connect with that point of you with you, and you with your connection to your higher spirit, or the spirit that flows through all of us. It's just heaven for me. It's what I know I was put on this planet to do and to engage in. Even to the point of staying home with my children when they were little monkeys. My husband and I were very committed to that process so that I could be with them. And I intuited my way through every parenting possibility.
So talk about intuition and trust. Because I think trust is one of those big things. Trust and courage are the two big issues that people are having.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing that stops, good point, is the biggest thing that stops people from trusting their intuition is something in their head that says, well, I can't be right on that. That can't possibly be my intuition. So what I work with in doing even my private practice as well is I teach people with some really fun, funky kind of tools that we use, games and exercises that we use, to start to learn that is actually the place to go. So it's hard to describe without getting too big on it in this interview, but to help them kind of sort of close down the mind, open up the spiritual center where the intuition really, really sits, and let that overcome this, so to speak. And then we practice.
Yeah, because this gets in the way.
Oh, absolutely.
And if we're too much in here, do we shut this down?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So we say, or meaning we, my guides, and I would say to someone, we're not really that interested in what you think. We're very much interested in how you feel. And you can think afterwards, because of course the human brain is spectacular, intelligence is lovely, but not to go there first. We say go here first, then you're allowed to think about it.
Yes.
So here's a very small example that we often use. Let's say you're at a decisive point in your life and you have to buy a new car. And you don't know whether to buy the blue car or the red car. Big problem for Simran. Which car should I buy? We say, think about the red car, think about the red car. So we're allowing them to think. Then think about the blue car. What do you think? Well, the red car's cheaper, or the blue car has the nicer radio. Those are the thinking places. Excellent. Now we say red car, red car, red car, and go down here instead. And it takes a bit of practice, but they end up making their own decision. So they come to me as an intuitive, looking for guidance, but in fact I teach them how to make that decision.
So someone that says, I don't know the difference between my brain and my feeling, how do I get to that place of understanding that I'm not thinking from here?
How do I get them to that place where they're actually engaging in that?
Yes.
It is as simple as deep breathing. 3 great big spiritually cleansing breaths always opens up that intuitive center. And I can read that in people. I can see their chakra system, and I can see that yellow gold expansion happen just by simply breathing 3 times. And I think most people could associate with the fact that we are shallow breathers as human beings, right? So a lot of spirit can be brought into the body by deep breathing. Couple that with meditation and you're golden.
So you talked about playing a bigger game. And I think internally, a lot of us are in that place of, gosh, I just want to play a bigger game. I just want my life to be more expanded. But then the steps to get there are a whole different thing. So first, talk about, in knowing that there's a bigger game out there, and having even a vision of what that bigger game could look like, what are some of the doubt places and the things that would show up even for someone who's an intuitive? Because I think that helps people who say, I can't be that intuitive person, to understand that in that way we are really all the same. It's just how we move through it that is different.
Absolutely, absolutely. So being intuitively charged doesn't negate me from being a human being, of course. So I have all the human doubts that anybody else would have. And one of my primary ones, which is laughable now because now I'm so more on this journey, is that I was too old. I was too old. My work was done, I raised my children, and I should just apparently go and live in the forest for the rest of my days. That there
Raise
was
your
no
hand if that's you.
Yeah, you want to relate? I bet you can. So that was one of the first doubt places that I went to. And this is where you came in. Because at one of those moments in time where I thought, either I'm going to kick this thing in gear, or I'm going to let it die on the vine, I came across you in your work. And based on so much, it's a standard issue, life coaching, business coaching, is to find yourself a mentor. So you became my mentor, and I was going to look and study and not be you, you're your beautiful self and I'm my beautiful self.
Yes.
But the paths that we both have taken are very similar. So it's not like it's a jump from me being me to, I don't know, Oprah or something like that. There are steps involved in this process. And they started as I started to investigate people like yourself who were doing such fantastic work, and you're not 20, with all due respect, we're not 20 anymore.
45.
I thought, yeah, 20, close. But that it was irrelevant. The age thing just kind of drifted right away, and it became irrelevant. Secondary, I'll just speak to one more, is that I wouldn't have enough energy, because there's a lot of energy involved in working and focusing and doing it, even administrative things, looking for my office, getting my practice built up, etc., etc. But oddly enough, as I took my own advice, breathed deeply,
yes.
and meditated.
As she took her own advice. Yes, as we speak the things we need to hear, don't
Absolutely. I took my own advice, as simple as that sounds like, but I did. And the energy I feel today, it far surpasses what I ever thought I could feel and get through a day with. The clarity in my mind, my guidance coming through from my guides and angels, the strong sense of intuition, it just keeps expanding and growing and expanding and growing.
I get that. As I embarked on the Rebel Road, I just kept feeling this surge of energy where I wouldn't tire, and people would say, how come you're not sleeping? How come you're not doing things? And it wasn't that I couldn't sleep, it's just I didn't need to. I was so high on the energy, and it has continued. You said one thing that I want to back up to, and you said when you found people like myself, wouldn't you say that it was not that it's mentor in the sense of a teacher or a guru, but just simply seeing an example of another person?
Yes.
That was just kind of the permission or the go-ahead to, okay, if she can do that, I can do that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So I've never been a believer that someone's here and someone's here. We're all on a journey exploring and expanding our soul's purpose. There's no doubt about it. But those teachers and those students and the teaching and the studenting, I know that's not a word, but I'll use it anyway. The studenting happens automatically when you expand yourself from that intuitive center. They just show up. They show up. And I believe it's our work as individuals on this spiritual journey to pay attention to those nuggets. It's very much what you talk about in Conversations with the Universe. Enjoy those nuggets. Pay attention to what the universe is offering you. And I'm suggesting that the more in tune we are with our own intuition, the bigger, better, the more accessibility you have to those moments in time, those conversations with the universe, to use a Simran Singhism.
So let's share that vision that you were intuiting, that was really guiding you and pulling you forward. What was that big vision?
The big vision, the big thing that came to me a number of years ago was to reach the masses, and you and I have had some private dialogue around that. Reaching the masses meaning there is intuition alive and well in every person. But going back to the beginning of this interview, we've just forgotten about it. So it's my personal passion to get out into the world and speak to as many people as I possibly can and teach them tools to get that intuition charged up again. I would love for everyone to be able to feel the guidance the way I do. I'm no less human than anyone else. I just have happened to use that muscle more than anyone else. And I'm fascinated by it anyway. And I'm a teacher at heart. And I'm a healer at heart. And I want people to engage and feel that expansion. It's so exciting.
It is exciting, and we're moving into a place where you hear this word being dropped called multidimensionality, and how we're becoming the new divine human, or how there's more divine feminine energy, and how does that all connect to the importance of tapping into that intuitive sense now that for so many has been dormant?
Well, that's a good question. I would believe that the intuition is actually the building block or foundation of all that to happen. So if you don't have your intuition not well intact, it's all relative. Everyone gets to decide what intact feels like. But at least a basic understanding of where your intuition is on a daily basis, kind of checking into where it is. The rest can't happen easily. That's how fundamental I believe that connection to our best self, your intuitive self, is.
And when we tap into that intuition, that feeling that is in the heart and the gut brain, Does it increase those other senses? When we're talking about multidimensionality, are we talking about the other senses of the body? Are we still talking about humanity, or are we talking about whisking off into the sky? Yes, what are we talking about here?
We're talking about that too. We're absolutely talking about that. But to couple that with an understanding that we are choosing to be human in this particular time-space reality, we're still choosing to be human. So the body comes along with, and as well as the spirit. So yes, to answer your question, yes, it expands to all that, but a practice of making sure that we stay grounded in the body and in the human experience is equally as important. So it's multidimensional in and unto itself, even to think about that concept.
What are the places that have disguised themselves as obstacles or challenges that really have been those places of true growth and expansion for you as you're stepping into this vision?
Without a doubt, fear. Absolute fear now has become my friend. I understand that fear is actually the launching off place, the trampoline place, so to speak. So I kind of jump on fear now. I envision myself being on a trampoline, and I'm afraid because it's going down a little bit, and I'm afraid, but I jump on it and I launch myself.
Beautiful.
I've made fear my friend for the first time in my life, and I'm quite enjoying that.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I know that in this beautiful property that's on 35 acres, you're also creating in what was the garage or horse stable or whatever that beautiful building is, you're creating a beautiful workshop space that you can teach, that others can teach, that different things that can happen there. So is there a broader vision, or what is the all-encompassing vision that is to be the experience of Beth Parojic experiencing herself?
Well, thanks for asking that. Yes, it is fully my intention to get the loft area available and work as a workshop place. There's no doubt about it. But I'm continuing on with my private practice. I love to do the one-on-one intuitive work with people so they can come and get an intuitive reading with me. But the other exciting part of it as well is that I'm embarking on a public speaking tour. In my guidance to reach the masses, I thought, well, you're pretty darn good at talking. Why don't you get out there and talk about it? So I'm excited about my new website that'll be launched on the 1st of October. And then I'm going to be pounding the pavement to speak to as many people as I possibly can about the power of their intuition. And my intention is to get into some corporate Canada work, corporate US work, because I think there's so much missing in the workplace as well, where intuitiveness can really help empower people in the workplace.
Yes, and you can find that link to her website below. So if you're wanting to invite her to your own area, here's another rebel. She's willing to travel. We'll come see you.
Absolutely.
One other piece that I'd love to get into here that I think is so crucial, and I've noticed this with Tuck Self, who's on the Rebel Road journey with me, and that is such sacred spiritual partnership that exists between a couple. And I got to meet your beautiful husband today, and I can see the level of support and respect and honor that he has for what it is that is your dream as well. Talk about having that kind of relationship of really allowing each other to be who you need to be on the planet, because he's not really in the realm that you're in. He does something completely the other side, but yet you both make it work, and it is both honored and respected.
Oh, thank you for that. And you're absolutely right. And your intuition was well engaged this morning when you met him, because he truly is one of the most brilliant people I've ever met on many, many, many levels. So we are blessed to have each other. And the way we view that, him being in a very different world than the world I live in, is we call that the law of balance. The law of balance is supporting us in our relationship. There is great love and respect between the two of us, first and foremost. But I have that philosophy, that basic philosophy that you need to be you. You need to be happy with you. And if that's what's happiness for you, how could I not support that? And he looks at that with me as well. Both of our children are highly intuitive, so he almost always had the 3-against-1 factor for a number of years, but his intuition is engaging more and more and more. I've seen great shifts, and he's feeling that power well up inside of him over the last year or so as well. So it's been a very keen and important part of my own personal growth to be involved with him, and likewise him with me. So it's a really fun part of the journey.
So that sacred spiritual partnership between the two of you, is that something that has always existed there, or is that something that had to evolve into this place?
For us, it had to evolve. We knew that we were spiritually connected 23 years ago when we got together, but the humanness would get in the way periodically, a little too heavy on the human side. I mean, would get in the way, and we would have to take a step back and say it's out of balance. It's out of balance. So that, I would say that that's happened a handful of times in the time that we've been together, but we're getting better at it. We've got the spiritual train moving really, really well in our relationship. So it doesn't take us long now to step back and say, okay, that's out of balance. How do we balance that back out?
And how did your own use of intuition support those moments to bring back the balance into the relationship? Because I do feel oftentimes it is the woman that ends up being the one that is able to support and hold the space and to create harmony again once where maybe there was not.
Yes, you're absolutely right on that. As crass as this might sound, I just insisted that when my intuition was kicking in, that's what we were going to do. It became a non-negotiable place for me because I'm so much about my intuition that if I was intuitively guided to an action or how he and I were going to get out of a funk that we were in, that was not negotiable for me. So he would come on board.
And that sounds like perhaps a sacred contract between your souls, that you would have some of those situations so that you could strengthen that experience and that trust in that intuition and guidance.
Absolutely, when it's so close to home.
Yes.
Right, when you're in love with somebody, that is very, very close to home. So you're absolutely right, we do consider it a sacred contract. And in contrast, because he's more, although as I mentioned, his intuition's becoming very much more alive and well. For a long time, he was head man. He was in his head a lot. And that, in fact, served me well when I look back on the journey that is he and I, because it helped me remain human. Mm-hmm. Yes, we had to pay attention to our finances. Yes, we had to pay attention to a roof that needed to be replaced. We had to pay attention to the human part of what was going on. So it took me a number of years to realize that, in fact, he's a great teacher to me and I'm a great teacher to him.
Because that's a big piece I've seen with a lot of people that want to end up in the spiritual realm. The part that they end up struggling at is the financial part or the business part, or any of that is more linear. And so that may be part of the reason that we end up with someone that is more like that, is because that's going to be that grounding force of it. But if we can see it as the teacher or as the guide. Exactly.
And I find journaling a lot, that's a very intimate practice for me. I don't share my journaling work because it's me with me. And I look back at some of the things I've written about him and about our relationship, and it just makes my heart sing. It's just been such a spectacular journey.
Beautiful. Any parting words of wisdom on intuition or anything that you want to speak that you feel like would be helpful for
just to remember everyone that intuition is not, it's not something that you have to search for. It's in there. And if we could just peel back the onion skin layers, so to speak, and get that intuition to be alive and well and use it most effectively, it's like a little piece of heaven.
Beautiful. Thank you, Beth, for this gorgeous place to be. I'm ready to stay and move in, but I know that you want to move in next week, so I guess I'll have to continue down the Rebel Road.
You're welcome back anytime, Simran. Come for visits all the time.
Awesome. Beth Parojic, a beautiful rebel in her own right. You're going to be seeing her out on the road speaking. Definitely tap into where she is. If you want to host her, invite her to come and have these amazing conversations. She's filled with wisdom and light, beautiful energy, and she definitely understands that life doesn't have to be so serious. She smiles and laughs and really makes everything light, and that's the energy that we need to be in at this time. You can find her link below and more information about her, as well as in the next issue of 1111 magazine. You can read the piece that she submitted. And so I am thrilled to be here in this beautiful place in Ontario, and stepping out in a couple of days to be in the show that she is helping to host. Tap into your intuition. If you're not quite sure how, connect with Beth and she'll help you do so. In love, of love, with love, and as love. I'm Simran Singh with Beth Parojic. I'll see you soon.